As far as I can tell in my perceptions of how things are here, one of the main issues with humanity, in the state that it currently is anyhow, is the trait or set of traits that are generally considered to be their greatest strengths from the point of view of their longevity as a species, that which has ensured such, which is basically their capacity for adaptivity and resourcefulness in even the most deplorable situations. Seems people will endeavor to persist, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter how dire or adverse they are. One will persist even in the state of complete and utter emotional turmoil or seemingly emotional death, complete inner numbness, poverty of spirit. And I've said elsewhere in previous videos that this has been somewhat my personal experience, this experiencing this process of reduced emotional range over time, reduced capacity for empathy and such. And from what I've observed, there's a general trend, at least in society as I see it, the society I find myself to be in, of so much being geared towards facilitating this process of reducing emotional range, and of curtailing one's capacity for empathy, connection, interest in others around them, putting people, atomizing individuals, seems to be something of a systemization of this process. And of course, correlation doesn't cause, causation, right? Doesn't imply causation, but you have enough of these correlations in seemingly disparate arenas of activity, and a pattern begins to emerge. So, and continuing from the previous video regarding violent media, violent content in general, this is one such example of how people are being hollowed out, people are being appearing apparently systematically traumatized. This trauma-based control is how I see it to be. I would suggest is how it is, basically. I think human beings, I would maybe even say all sentience, is, as it is conceived, is very pure, very innocent, very highly sensitive in a great many cases. I won't say all cases, just they simply don't know, but in a great many cases it is highly sensitive, and it's highly traumatic for something highly sensitive and empathic to be exposed to violent content, to be exposed to violence. It is extremely detrimental. And well, I won't say if there's something, an intentionality behind this. I mean, well, I guess I've said that there seems to be a pattern that's presented itself that would indicate that there is, but I can't say for sure. And even if there is, okay, I'm not necessarily implying that there is a cabal of humans, say, that are implementing this. They could be simply serving as conduits for such and be wholly unaware of what is driving them, that is driving their motivations, what is at the root of their motivations. As with talking about drugs and substances and such, and how I suggested that they're merely material, perceivable expressions of something that is immaterial and outside of our range of perception. It's sort of like its feelers, its means of extending itself into this reality, and it's a sort of seed that will take root within us, the host, and thereby will be able to engage more fully within this reality. And drugs in general, we can see also how the numbing process occurs within the use of drugs, particularly those that are hedonic in nature. Anhedonia will invariably result as a consequence of the use of these substances. And further use will only deepen this descent into anhedonia. And then there are drugs that themselves aren't even hedonic in nature, drugs that are extremely commonly used, painkiller drugs. I'm thinking of, in particular, paracetamol, as we call it in the UK. I don't know what it is in the United States, but it's an extremely inexpensive and easily obtained over-the-counter pain medication. Costs like 30 pence or whatever for a packet in the UK. Very, very inexpensive, and people pop that shit back like it's fucking Smarties. And for even the most sort of minor and inconsequential of ailments, this is if people are just completely lost the capacity to endure even the most minor amount of trifling sort of pain, right? Just as something as simple as just like a little bit of a tension headache, right? Or a little bit of a dull ache in the ankle or something. People will resort immediately, reflexively, to the use of this medication. And one effect of this medication is that majority of people are completely unaware of who take it. Also, it diminishes one's capacity for empathy. Quite demonstrably so. And it's basically not known and not spoken about in wider society. It's sort of a niche knowledge that one stumbles upon. I don't know, maybe I think there's some kind of, not benefit to say, but the people seek to numb themselves and are also systematically numbed by exposure to this reality, as I was saying. This society that is this kind of conceptual overlay upon reality only seems to further facilitate the process of such. It drives people to numb themselves, because it's so painful to interact with, and there are mechanisms at play within this society that seem to be systematically, institutionally numbing people and priming them for exposure to these speculative entities, priming them for entity attachment. And something I didn't mention in that previous video, just a quick side note, is that there basically is a relation between that first point of violent content and the drug use. The violent content would be placing them into or priming them to be more optimally susceptible to entity attachment, because it puts them in a psychological state in which they're going to be more conducive to they're basically a psychological environment is being fashioned that is more so conducive to the attachment of such a speculative entity. It's preparing the ground for such. Basically ties into the Hermetic law of correspondence. One will be exposed or able to perceive things that they are themselves already primed for, already, Hermeticism has a lot to do with understanding a lot of this stuff, being able to being aware of those Hermetic laws helps one to kind of entertain more of this seemingly impossible, implausible stuff. Understanding these laws directly, experientially, understanding how they apply to one's experience, to reality, will go a significant way towards comprehending some of these more bizarre claims that I'd be making here, if you are, that is, skeptical of them. But as I was saying about pain and trauma, to just, I suppose, wrap up this sort of very discombobulated, directionless ramble, not that there's a benefit to the trauma or transcending the trauma, but probably I would say the optimal way to navigate the trauma is to not seek to numb oneself, but to fully inhabit that state of trauma as it occurs. Not to seek it, but when it inevitably falls one, to fully inhabit it, to fully immerse oneself fully in it, not hide or seek to numb any single aspect of it, to allow it to resolve itself, basically. And the human nervous system has a very effective way of doing this, which is to basically shake it out of one. Most people lose the capacity to do this because they're sort of, I guess it's sort of shameful or seen as weak to display openly to society that one is experiencing trauma, that one is traumatized, that one is processing trauma. There's this toxic stoicism that is abounding in, I guess, current times. And the stoicism in name itself, as the philosophy, is actively promoted, right? Just put on a stern face, don't let your emotions sort of sway and be a sort of a calm beacon amidst the turbulence of your own life. But I don't see that that's a good thing. Perhaps there are aspects of it, but it's sort of there's nuance to it that I don't think a great many people are going to be able to execute. Maybe, I don't know. I would say it's better to experience these emotions, to not lose the capacity to experience one's emotions, to not lose that connection with one's fundamental essence, with their spirit. And in order to do that, one must fully inhabit the trauma that is that befalls them, to shake it out, to process it, and then to continue with still in full possession of these faculties, with this connection to self. Yeah, I don't know. That was a mess, wasn't it? Okay.